Hello, everyone. It is Cynthia Martin, and welcome to the Author Spotlight, where we're hosted by yourauthorhub.com. And I just want to invite you to join us today. We have a chiropractic doctor with us, and he has written a book, and I'm really interested in what to learn about this book. Dr. Fred Dementico. I messed it up. I said it right the first time, and I messed it up again already.
All good.
So,
So,
welcome, Dr. Fred, and tell us about who you are and about your book.
I assume you're more powerful than you think. Well, I'm a chiropractor. I was very blessed. At a young age, I felt like I was here for a reason. I was supposed to do something. And just kind of a quick story. I remember being 7 years old, and I was raised in an immigrant Italian family, and I remember being in the front yard and seeing my grandfather sitting on the porch in his guinea white tee, my grandmother yelling Italian at him through the window like she always did. And I remember thinking, he was 73 years old. And I remember thinking, looking at him, going, I wonder what's going through his mind. You know,
Wow.
what's his life been like? And I remember thinking, by the time I'm his age, I want the world to be different. It was like this, you know, mindful, this whole universe comes together in a second, and then you run off playing in the dirt again. And so I just had this feeling I was supposed to do something. So when I found chiropractic, it was funny. I was pre-med in undergraduate at San Diego State, and I really didn't know what I was being. I was working at a physical therapy clinic, blah, 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 and raised Catholic. We were raised, we practiced religion on Sunday, but we're raised with a relationship with God. We prayed, immigrant Italian, you just pray for everything, right? Every other word is Jesus anyway. So whether you're swearing or not, but so I remember I was praying, and then I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I got a pamphlet from chiropractic school. I'm like, chiropractors are stupid. They don't know anything. I didn't even know what chiropractors were. And then I got another one. I'm like, they're dumb. And I threw it away. And then I got a third one. And my epiphany, if you want to call it that, is whenever I'm praying for something and I get something 3 times, I know God is talking to me. And so I went into chiropractic school. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be a chiropractor. And I had no idea what chiropractic was. So I enrolled in chiropractic school. And then I found out, wow, the spine and nervous system is the foundation of life and health of the body. The brain and spinal cord send energy to the organs. And if I fix people's spines, their diseases can go away. I'm
Wow.
like, that's amazing, because I was raised by a mom who was an RN. I hated medicine. I didn't like it, just innately. Like, we come in with this purpose. Psalm 139:16 says, you saw my days before they were formed. Like, we come in with this purpose. We may not know it, but our spirit knows, and everything in our life is leading us toward it, right? So, of course, I was raised in a medical family. I didn't like any of it, but I was supposed to be in healthcare. So when I found, oh my God, literally, your body can heal naturally. I just got to get the obstruction out of the way, which is the spine. So I learned, studied how to fix the spine, studied all these advanced techniques. I had people that would come to me with diabetes and cancers and epilepsy and all these things, people with MS getting out of wheelchairs, people that were blind were getting their vision back, deaf ears, all these things, healing miracles. As well as the back pain, neck pain, headaches. And so, but people would say to me, Dr. Fred, you know what your purpose is? You always seem so happy. And they would say, I don't know what my purpose is.
Yeah.
And then the majority of people I find don't really know, like they have a job or a career, or, I'm supposed to go to college and get a job and have 2.5 kids and a dog. And, this is my mom. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer, and my mom wanted me to be a doctor. Well, my mom wanted me to be a priest. I'm like, I don't think so. So, of course, Italian mother. So, and then I started coaching chiropractors, teaching them how to build a practice. But my second marriage, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. And then I remembered, medicine had failed, chemo radiation didn't work, and she had full body metastasis. And about 3 weeks before she died, um, I carried her to the bathtub. She wanted to take a bath, and we were planning her life service. And then all of a sudden, she started howling out loud, crying like somebody hit a light switch. And I was like, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I don't know if I did what I was supposed to do in this life." She
Wow.
didn't know her purpose, and she didn't know it. She felt like, I'm dying without even knowing why I'm here. I mean, yes, she had 2 kids, and that was it. But there's something when we don't fulfill that, there's something inside us. There's so many people that feel this void, like they can look around and see, I have everything to be grateful for, but am I really doing what I'm supposed to do? How did I end up in this job? I mean, I got a job, I have a family, yeah, and even my life might be great, but there's something else, and it finds out 93% of Americans don't know what their purpose is.
True. Very true.
Yeah,
I,
so anyway, at that
I,
moment, when
I
she said,
agree.
yeah, sorry, go
Nope,
ahead.
that's okay.
Oh, so when she said, "I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know if I did what I was supposed to do," it was such a heavy weight. But then, a few seconds later, I'm like, wow, well, I am living my purpose. And then a loud voice in my head said, "I don't want anybody in my life to ever say those words to me again." And so she passed a few weeks later, and then I began on this journey. Really, it was kind of selfish. I mean, now I was divorced and widowed, and I just wanted to find an amazing woman. And but I knew I had to become that man. So I started on this accelerated spiritual journey. Now I do have a wife, and she's very amazing. And so anyway, one day I was sitting there and I was trying to think, coaching chiropractors. I was thinking of a 6-step rehab system that I wanted to trademark to heal people's spines, and the acronym HEALED fell on me. And
Mhm.
when I'm like, oh, healed. And then I started getting all these visions. I'm like, that's not chiropractic. This is a spiritual system, spiritual evolution to tap into, help people tap into their spirit. That's honor God within yourself. Exercise loving yourself and others. Wow, if I'm a divine being, then if I'm divine, I'm actually created in love. Like all these things that I've learned, like what
Yeah.
we learn is most people learn how to love. They don't realize they really are love, right? We look to our parents and all these things, and
Mhm.
we learn from people that don't even know how to love themselves. And then it takes you through forgiveness and how to be present. So the healed system is 6 steps to heal your life and fulfill your soul purpose. It's really about to find out who you really are, who God created you to be, get rid of your past, and then discover the reason you're here in this life and fulfill it.
That's amazing. And just so the audience knows, I have not met Dr. Fred before today, but I actually am mentoring a few people. And when I talk to them, this is one of the biggest needs they have in their life is they have no clue why they are here, what their purpose is. And I help help them dig into their lives and exactly. And when I was reading your bio, for those of you watching this podcast, I get a bio on the people who come in and I have a little look to see what they're about so I can ask some questions. And so when I read his bio today, I was like, oh my gosh, this is fabulous. This is right up my alley. So I'm just really excited to hear about a little bit more about those steps. And if I want to back up a little bit, because you said so much there that was so valuable. I was writing it, trying to pay attention and look and write at the same time. So just to be clear, the name of your book is You're More Powerful Than You Think. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I love the title. I think that right there in the title says so much about the humans. They don't realize their own individual power. They don't realize who they are. They don't realize what contribution they can give to the world. So excellent. I love that title. Everybody's got to go get the book now just because I love the title. So the next thing that you said, you talked about, and I'm so sorry for the loss of your first wife, but one of the things I'm hearing, and I'm not quite sure, but it sounds like her passing and her pain was almost an inspiration for you to go into this journey of helping others. Am I hearing that correctly?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we go through in accepting forgiveness for yourself and others. By the time you get through, wow, I actually experienced my divinity, I actually get a feeling of what it's like to truly love who I am.
Yeah.
Then you look at your past and you begin to see the patterns of the things that happen. And then you realize I've been divinely guided
Yeah.
the whole time. And many times, people say, if you don't know your purpose, find what you love and then get paid for it. And that's not true. Your passion may not lead to your purpose. Many times your purpose comes out of your greatest pain.
That is true. Yes,
So you can
I
find
agree.
your
I,
purpose and then become passionate about it, but you didn't find it through passion. You found it through devastating pain.
That is true. I also think, though, also, and I'm just going to run this by you as well. Do you think a lot of times I will ask people, what did you like to do when you were a child? Because I think as when we're children, like you were talking about when you were young and you were looking at your grandfather and you had these epiphanies and then you just went off and played in the dirt again. But a lot of times life itself and circumstances will change what we think when we're children. And I think we're born with exactly what you said, Psalms 139, with that instilled in us, and then circumstances and maybe even molding of people and influences in our life take us from that purpose. And then we grow to think, well, it has to be what I love, and we forget what we loved when we were a child. Do you think those two are related at all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the most I had no idea about that I would ever end up in this place by any stretch. All I know is I didn't like taking the drugs my mother gave me, and that's all I knew. And I didn't agree with it. But when I look back, when I think about my childhood, what did I like to do? Create. Like
Mhm.
that's what children do, right? They're
Right.
very creative. You see, kids are definitely in their right brain.
Yeah.
They're very creative, they're very imaginative, and that's, Albert Einstein, imagination is more powerful than knowledge, right? If you look at any manifesting principles or anything, it's our imagination that is most powerful, that creates in our life, and children don't have those limitations because what do parents do that become limited by their own beliefs through their things in life, right? They shut down the imagination of children when that's really our strength.
Yeah. I was just listening to something. I'm in a class for some other things that I'm doing. And one of the comments they made, it was a Christian class, and it's talking about how Jesus wants us to look at possibilities. And we have a tendency to look at logic. And if we looked at logic, we would never see miracles because miracles are possibilities. We always trying to frame everything by what we can think, and that's exactly what happens as a child is we turn off that imagination, which goes beyond logic, and it goes into something else. So great. So let's talk a little bit about those 6 steps. Tell me about those 6 steps and how you sounds like you had a divine download, but how you came about those, and let's talk about those a bit.
Well, I would say, when I first got the acronym HEALED, I wanted to make it one word. And then I had a friend of mine who was an entrepreneur say, well, maybe they're phrases. And then I went, oh, I never thought of that. And as soon as this person said that, boom, all 6 phrases landed on me that fast. So it was
Wow.
definitely a divine download. And then I'm like, okay, I got to write the book, which became You're More Powerful. But I had no idea what I was going to write. And
Yeah.
what spirituality was to me, I mean, I was raised in religion, which that I always had questions that could never be answered. Because, I mean, we were raised Catholic, and Catholics don't read the Bible. Catholics have the Bible read to them. Like Christians, I mean, even though Catholic or Christian, like non denominational, they actually study the Bible.
Yeah.
So, I started with H is honor God within yourself, and you'll see the divine perfection of this. First of all, you have to understand this was a question of mine. We go, Genesis 1:27. you're creating the likeness and image. Like, I didn't understand, if we're creating the likeness and image, then why are we sinners? Why would God create something like that? And that question was answered in the third step. So, and then religion teaches you, well, you can never be like Jesus, but Jesus says, if you believe in me, you can do these things and greater. Like, those two things confused me. There's contradictions in what it says, and then it contradicts, all these other places. And like what you said, Jesus talks about the lamp of the eye, right? He's talking about seeing with insight. If you look, if you want to call it your third eye chakra, see with your intuition. That's your imagination and your intuition. Like when you look at, the Richard Bransons and these people, right? They create through intuition. They create through imagination. They create things that don't exist. They're not creating with eyesight. They see a problem that they want to solve, and then they create something original.
That's
So,
interesting.
yeah. And so, like, I wrote a spiritual book. Well, how many spiritual books are there? Well, 8 million. Now what I found was you have all the Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, Michael Bernard Beckwith, they have all these people, and they may teach an aspect. Eckhart Tolle teaches about presence. Michael Bernard Beckwith teaches about your divine spirit, Neil Donald Walsh. But what had happened was, to me, it felt like pieces, like turning a crossword puzzle over on your coffee table. There's all these pieces, but most people don't know how to arrange it.
Put them together to make a
Yeah,
whole.
so I have a gift where I can take like an IKEA diagram, like an exploded view diagram with arrows here, and I can take complicated systems and complicated pieces and put them into a system.
Right. And so that's what you've done in your book.
Absolutely. So H is honor God within yourself, which is you're creating a likeness and image. It says seek the kingdom first, right? The kingdom is inside you. There's all these, and that's really what it is God is inside us.
Yeah.
Religion prays to a God outside, and I understand there's a whole universe and all this too. But if we're creating a likeness and image, divinity is who we really are.
Yeah.
Walking in this physical meat suit on this physical plane.
I like that, a physical meat suit. That's cute. I agree with you that if we are truly have relationship with God, and what the Bible tells us that we're made new and that we are in his image, and that he comes and causes our spirit to become alive and we're made new, then we are like him, and we need to live as though we are, not as though we were. And I think that's what religion wants to talk about the old man instead of us living in the new man, right?
Well,
Those
and
are my terminologies. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And when you look at, okay, so why are we sinners? It's, first of all, I don't believe we're sinners. However, what I was given through a vision from Jesus, and this is I can get into this story, but it was in the forgiveness part. Well, let me go through. So once you understand that you're divine, then exercise loving yourself and others. So I go through not only biblical quotes, but spiritual principles,
Right.
where you actually can connect with, wow, love is inside me.
Yeah.
And exercise loving yourself and others, like giving and receiving, are the same. People think, well, they give love, but they don't get anything back. Well, the reality is your brain, your mind doesn't know what's inside of you or what's outside of you. So if you give love and you're choosing to experience the love that you're giving, then giving and receiving are actually simultaneous. So as you give, you're already receiving. And this is how the universal laws work, that giving and receiving, it's not that I give and then I expect something in return. That's human. But as I give, if I choose to experience it, your emotional brain, limbic brain, doesn't know the difference. And that's why visualization, creative visualization is powerful. If you visualize yourself and you feel the emotion in another dimension or in another experience, your mind doesn't know that it's not happening in your world.
Right.
And that's why Jesus sees through your imagination, see through your intuition. And you can bring things. That's how he healed, right? You bring things from the spirit world into the physical world, and you change physical matter.
That's interesting. So how do you how does that correlate to what you do medically, or are you not working as a chiropractor anymore, or you incorporate these into your work?
Well, I don't practice chiropractic anymore, but
Okay.
when you look at the spiritual energy of the spine is
Mm-hmm.
really the bridge between heaven and earth. So when you look at your nervous system is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And our bodies are really electromagnetic fields. And so your nervous system is an electrical system, and electrical systems have electromagnetic fields.
Mm-hmm.
When your nervous system is functioning optimally because you have a healthy spinal structure, you're actually resonating with the universal resonance. Now, at a higher frequency of electromagnetic force, you don't have disease.
Okay.
Okay. But if your spine's out of alignment and your body is functioning at a lower, if you want to call it lower vibration, you change the electromagnetics of your body, it starts to break down the electrical charges on your cells, and then you get sick.
I see.
And so when you change the spinal structure, you have a fully functioning nervous system, you have more energy coming through, you function at a different electromagnetic force, and it bathes your cells with the right energy that creates health.
Okay. That's interesting. So, then you're not practicing chiropractic anymore. So, is this your only book? Is this your first book and your only book, or is this what what
What
you're doing now?
Well, I have this book, and then I have a book I wrote about chiropractic called The Best Kept Secret to Heal Your Back Pain. And it talks about how posture, spinal structure affects the spinal cord and nervous system and creates disease. And when you correct that posture, how your disease go away. It's called The Best Kept Secret because this is what pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know. Because
Right.
if everybody had a good alignment, they wouldn't need drugs,
Yeah.
and they would go to a chiropractor first for their diseases. And if they live that lifestyle, you wouldn't see the same sickness. And
Right.
it talks about, we're in a very flexion distorted society, right? With technology, and we sit in cars. And that is a very destructive posture that is breaking down our spine, causing massive stress on our nervous system, and actually making people sick. And so today, the generation kids today is the first generation they expect to not live as long as their parents.
Yeah, that's really sad. I just saw that a few weeks ago that life expectancy is going down instead of up as it always has been. So let's go back to these where I want to make sure that we get through those six
Oh, yeah.
steps. And I keep refocusing it because I just looked and I thought, oh my, we're running out of time. So let's keep going here. We have a few minutes, but I want to hear some of the other of the other five steps.
Okay, so honor God within yourself. We take you through this process that helps you tap into your divinity, and then exercise loving yourself and others teaches you actually how to give, how to feel it in your body, and then how to give and exchange it for
Mhm.
yourself love. Now, once you get into this higher loving state, then there's accepting forgiveness for yourself and others. So, I
Mhm.
mean, that's really
That's
Jesus'
huge. Yeah.
message is he showed you what divine love is and showed that you at that level then you always forgive.
Hmm.
God didn't see our sin, right? He
Yep.
forgives us from east to west.
Yep.
And so then once you release all that emotional energy, and then you can see the pattern in your life that have been leading you to your soul purpose. Now L is living in now. It's how to come into presence. So you're not stressed about the future. You're not bringing guilt and resentment and all that crap from your past into your present. You're totally present, which means now your mind is quiet. You're in the state of peace. Now you can hear the whispers of your innate guiding you. You can hear the whispers of God, right?
Hmm.
And then so once you hear those whispers, then you establish your purpose and mission. Because then you see the patterns, you hear the whispers, you find what your purpose is, and then D is deliver it to the world. So it's a six. If you follow the steps, you don't have to know anything. All you got to do is follow the system.
Yeah.
You can read the book. We have a whole online system with videos and workbooks and PowerPoints. And yeah,
The whole deal.
thehealedsystem.com. And it
Yeah.
can take you through the whole thing.
Um, oh, I was just trying to think there was something that you said. Oh, about the when you can hear the whispers of God. And I think I agree with you that we have such a loud, we're living in such a loud, and I'm talking about all the things that are going on, all not just noise level, as you turn up your TV, but all the different things that are occupying who we are, that it's so loud that it's squelching out the voice of God. And we've got ourselves so cluttered with so many things. Just that music, that meeting that I've already mentioned that I was on this morning, a woman said, that she felt like God said to her, "Your quiet time is too loud." And so that's interesting that I'm hearing that the second time today. But I do think that's true. Is we get so loud that we can't hear God. We've
Listen,
cluttered that time. Yeah,
and the problem, well, one, focusing on everything outside as opposed to inside,
exactly.
but what's even louder is carrying all the emotions from your past, the guilt, the
Yep,
resentment, the shame, it's
yep,
all non-forgiveness.
yeah,
That
exactly.
is all the emotional static. You can't get quiet until you release all those negative emotions.
I agree. That's powerful. And when that happens, it does feel like you've lost 50 pounds. It really does. And not only does it make you feel, it's a space that you've never lived in before. It feels like that the possibilities are endless. It's like the sky is blue and the grass is green, and you are living in a black and white world, and now you can see colors. Just totally amazing. I love that. And so let's talk about the number, your last, your six. And I think I heard you say you deliver it to the world. Is that passing on what you know, is what you're saying?
Well, that's whatever your purpose is, you're actually
Okay.
living it and doing it, right?
Yes.
So I mean,
Yeah.
there's lots of business strategies. We go through the spiritual principles of delivering the purpose to the world because a lot of times, you pick things that are really big, like you have visions where, it could be your whole life like, oh my God, I can't do that, or that's too big, or someone else should do that, or who's working on that. And
Yeah.
if you're always saying, well, someone should do something about that, look in the mirror,
Right.
right? But you're like,
Right.
I can't do that. It's too big. So,
Yeah.
and it's
That's
not that,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think I agree with you that we it goes back to your title. You're more powerful than you think, and we see ourselves so much smaller than we truly really are. And I've always said that we live so much less than what we really could. And I'm not talking about gathering cars and houses. Yes, no, whatever. That's not the point. Being who we really truly are. So, do you find that? That people through this process that they're truly walking into their purpose, and talk about what that is like for those folks who are finding who they were created to be. How does that respond, how they respond to that?
well, we've done in-person experiences and I've had a number of people go through this system online and there's a whole Facebook page and we can interact. But I would say the first thing that people notice is inner peace.
Yeah.
Like their body becomes quiet because
Mhm.
you've literally just got rid of all the shit pardon my language, you've been carrying, like you took your emotional backpack off.
Yeah.
So that's what they experience first. And then you find, well, then what's the next thing? Well, then you'll notice your relationships change.
Yeah.
You talk to your kids differently and, things change. Of course, there's things that happen. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. It's like this hologram going back from your humanity, your divinity. But what healed is, it gives you the tools when you do get stuck in your humanity, you have the tools to go back to your divinity because we're human. I mean, we're going to get angry, we're going to get upset, we're going to do things that, we make mistakes and, we're not perfect, but but the reality is you don't stay there.
Yeah.
Can you go in depression? Absolutely, but you know how to get out.
Yeah. And
And so,
I appreciate you pointing out the relationship aspect, because we don't go into something because of our relationships. We go into things for ourselves, or we should. We need to be our own motivator. But because we change, our relationships change because we've changed. That's
absolutely.
hard to explain to someone, but that happens organically because as we change, the relationship has to change. And a lot of times, sometimes I found, I shouldn't say a lot of times, sometimes that doesn't make any sense, but I found as I've changed, I've had those who didn't want me to change because they wanted to stay in the same dynamic. And then you have to make your own choice that you're either going to grow or whatever. But I appreciate that. So
Well, that's
really interesting. And so you have your book is on Amazon, is that right? And talk about some of the other things that you have available to folks out there that might want to check into it.
well, go to thehealedsystem.com. I mean, we have a whole online program that you can get and download the videos, and it has a whole workbook and these audios. I mean, it takes you through it. And there's Facebook page Healed. There's Facebook page Healed with Dr. Fred and Molly Rose, and we interact. And God, there's tons of videos if you go on that page and going through the program. We have a number of people have gone through the program, and you're just, it's not that you're a different person, you're a more clear version of yourself.
You've become who you were created to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're
And so how long have you been following this, or have you discovered this sixth step and created all these videos? How old is the system? I mean, I know the system is old because as long as God is, but how long have you been involved?
Well, I got the download in 2009. I started writing the book. It took me 9 years to write the book because I had to rewrite it, but
Mhm.
I had to live it to teach it. Like when I started writing the book, I had no idea what the content was going to be. So I would pray and I would ask God to show me the right authorities, and I would read books. And I already had a whole, 25 years of studying
Mhm.
principles. And
Okay.
so a lot of it was I would pray and then I would start writing, and I'd write for, 40 minutes. And then I'd look back and think, I didn't know this 41 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of things that came through prayer, through visions. I had two out of body experiences with Christ. We're in deep prayer. I literally left my house, my kitchen, and was in this whole nother dimension. And Christ, Jesus was teaching me things. And then I would come back into my kitchen like, whoa, that was a trip. And then I would write down what I just learned. And then I would read it and go, I didn't know this. Like I could not have written this, but Jesus taught me who he is and why he was here.
Wow. And so it's interesting. Some of the questions that I'll ask some of our authors is, how do you write? And, do you have to have your room set up a certain way? Do you have a discipline in how you write? So that just kind of blew that question out of the water. So
Well, I had no idea.
it's not necessarily planned in your particular case. So
No.
you got the book done, and then at that point then you decided to go into creating the system or the online videos, and all of that came after the book, is that right?
Yeah, and this whole time I was coaching chiropractors, so I would teach these things to chiropractors because what I found was like entrepreneurs, they would get stuck in their business because they're stuck in themselves.
Yeah.
So I noticed as I helped them take them through the spiritual clearing, if you want to call it, that their businesses started growing.
Hmm.
And
That's
then,
interesting.
yeah, when you find, if you have a business, there's a spiritual principle that's related to your business.
Well, there's a spiritual principle that's related to everything.
Exactly.
Truly, and it's the basis of life, I believe. And not everybody believes that. They think they have a business problem, or they have a marriage problem, or they have a this problem. But truly, they all go back to the one issue, and it's really related to having our spiritual life in the proper alignment. So they're just totally fascinating. So, Dr. Fred, what would you say to an author who here's some of because we do have a lot of authors who watch our program, the author spotlight, that's what it's about. A lot of readers, avid book readers as well. But what would you say to an author who's wondering if they should write a book? They've always felt like they should, but they hear these voices that say you don't have anything important to say.
Well, that's just, that's a voice in your head. That's not a voice of your spirit. And I always knew there was 3 books I was going to write, and I tried writing other books, but they never got off the ground because they weren't the books I was supposed to write.
Yeah.
So, I would say pray, and it's just going to be, I mean, it's the answer that we don't like to hear
Yeah.
because we're impatient, as it's in God's time. And when you write something that has a purpose, I would say, if you look at what's the greatest challenge that you made it through on the other side
Yeah.
that you can help people with it. It's a book isn't easy to write.
No.
So you have to have discipline. And for that discipline, you better have a big purpose.
Yeah.
So it's not just, I want to write a book. No,
Yeah.
there's something I want to contribute to humanity where people are suffering. And I made it through this and I want to share it with other people. And that's a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, that's real important that they understand their why. Why are they writing their book? And I do. I say to them as well. I personally don't think it's a natural thing to want to write a book unless you're a journalism major, right? Because
Yeah.
it's hard. It does. It's not something that comes easy, and it is a lot. There is a lot of discipline, and then when you get the book written, you think, oh, you're done, but sometimes that's the beginning of the process when the book is done.
It was funny because I always thought, wow, when I get that box of the copy of my books, I'm going to be so happy. I opened the box and I pulled out a book and I was depressed because it's like now the hard stuff begins. Like writing the book, that's easy. That's the easy part. And that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Getting out and promoting it and doing all these things, it's like, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
There's lots of people out there that can help you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to pay tens of thousands of dollars,
Right.
or you can do it organically for cheaper, but you got to bust your butt.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's the real truth, but it can be done. There is work involved in writing a book, and there's more work after the book because whether we go the traditional route and have a publisher or whether we self-publish, you still have to do your own book promotion. You either have to pay somebody or it's either time or money. You either got to put the time into it or you got to put the money into it in order to promote your book.
fill
For
out the
sure, for sure. So we are out of time, but I just want to give you the opportunity because I've so enjoyed this time to tell, is there anything that you'd like to tell the audience before we close down our session today?
Well, if we're speaking authors and you have an inclination to write a book, it's like it's calling you again. I think I'm repeating myself. Find the right reason.
Yeah.
There's, the stronger, in my opinion, the spiritual, your spiritual foundation,
Yeah.
the more the right book, the more the right reason, things are just going to come through you. It's like stay connected because you're going to create something and write something. It doesn't matter what the topic is because you're writing it and only you're supposed to write it. So,
Yeah.
in my opinion, if you want to make that the best as possible, you got to stay connected. You got to stay connected to God and
Yeah.
who you are on the inside. And a book, in my opinion, has to come through you, not by you.
Good point. Good point. I love that. But we are out of time today, and I hope that you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Sometimes I think these interviews are just too doggone short. But I just want to say thank you to Dr. Fred, and I want to thank those who are listening, and also to yourauthorhub.com who makes this podcast happen. Before we close, I want to remind you to go to Dr. Fred Domenico's uh, and get his book, You're More Powerful Than You Think. Also, I'm looking here, I've written all over this page, thehealedsystem.com. You can check both of those out and check out all of this information that he shared with us today. And I just want to say thank you, Dr. Fred, for coming on and sharing with us today. And to those who are watching, I want to say thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Author Spotlight. Have a great day.
Appreciate it.